Welcome, LA Progressive friends, family, readers. Dick and I are again joined by Bill Blum, who has been meeting with us regularly to update us on a variety of different topics, but most often on something that he's written about. And his most recent piece in the LA Progressive talks about Donald Trump destroying American democracy. Hi, Bill.
Hi, how are you?
We're good.
We're good. So why don't you just give everybody a brief bio and let's dig right into this article.
I'm a retired judge and an attorney, a professor at USC, sometimes lecture at UCLA, and I write on the intersection of law and politics for a variety of publications, including the LA Progressive. And my most recent article concerned a propaganda technique that Donald Trump uses regularly. And it was what prompted me to write the article was his rally on December 2nd in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, in which he accused Joe Biden, rather than himself, as being the great destroyer of American democracy, and said that Biden and his allies will break any law, any norm, and they think that they can get away with doing anything. This coming from a man who's facing 91 felony charges and, of course, has a reputation for lying that's longer than a country mile. So I got to thinking about this comment that he made, these remarks, and I was wondering, is this just another form of Donald Trump engaging in what psychologists call projection, which is attributing your own thoughts, your own misdeeds and failures to other people? Is it just a schoolyard tactic of bullying, or is there something more sophisticated, deliberate, and calculating behind it? And lo and behold, and this is something I had not known before, this is a propaganda technique that political scientists and historians of authoritarianism and fascism call accusation in a mirror or mirror image propaganda. And that is, as the term has become defined over the decades, to accuse your opponent of exactly what you are planning to do. So when Donald says it's Biden and the Democrats who are out to destroy democracy, we know that what he really is doing is covering up his own plans to destroy democracy. And there's this rich literature on mirror image propaganda that I discovered. And the literature tells you that the mirror image propaganda goes hand in hand with the other requisite technique of dehumanization. So you have to dehumanize your opponent, and you see Donald Trump doing that in a variety of ways. From the time he came down the escalator at Trump Tower in Manhattan, saying that immigrants were rapists and drug dealers, to identifying with the neo-Nazis in Charlottesville and so many other instances. So the accusation in a mirror goes hand in hand with dehumanization. Dehumanization tells people, according to these experts, that the other side is out to get you, that they're not worthy of being considered as people, so when you harm them, you're really not committing a crime. And then mirror image propaganda enables you to do whatever is necessary. So as to the Nazi Party, dehumanization justified murdering the Jews. Mirror image propaganda made the murder a necessity because the idea was they're out to get you. And you can see this in Trump's propaganda. The immigrants are out to take your jobs, to remake the culture. And it's not just the immigrants, it's minorities, it's people who live in cities, urban dwellers who believe in multicultural democracy. And so this propaganda technique, the first thing we have to do is recognize it for what it is. It's not just Donald Trump meandering and engaging in word salad or speaking off the cuff. He's actually playing to a script. And I don't know to what extent he writes all of these, not that he writes all of his speeches, but that he crafts the approach just by himself or whether he has a team of people like Stephen Miller who are out helping him. But there really is a very clear expression of this propaganda technique in his political speeches. So, as part of my project of warning people of what we face as a danger as we come up to the November 2024 elections, I thought that this propaganda technique was something that ought to be called to everyone's attention so they can see it for what it really is. And that was the inspiration for this last column.
So in your piece, you mentioned a website called the Dangerous Speech Project. And it says that Susan Benesch coined this term. And I was attempting actually to access dangerousspeech.org. And I think that the site is having a little bit of a problem right now. So
Yeah, access it. She's a lecturer at American University. She's one of the researchers, and Human Rights Watch uses her work prominently in its efforts to expose dictators and demagogues around the world. I don't think she coined the phrase mirror image propaganda, but she writes about it. There are other people who do as well. And she is a very, very good resource. And if you follow the hyperlinks, you can access at least one of her papers without going to the website, and you can read it in detail. It's really long.
One of the points that she makes is that it says people don't commit violence against other groups or even condone it spontaneously. First, they must, and then she goes on to talk about this is a continuum. So it starts off at, with dangerous speech, and then it graduates on to more pernicious and violent and other dangerous acts. And it sounds to me like what's happening with Trump is he's setting the stage.
That's undoubtedly true. Donald has been doing this since 2015, and he's been doing it very successfully. He's taken an entire political party along with him, and that political party no longer believes in parliamentary or procedural democracy anymore. That party believes in a leader who is dedicated to transforming the United States along racial and economic lines. And it is absolutely true. This begins with speech and conditioning people. And we've been hearing it now for at least 8 years. So it's, again, high time that we understand what's going on, that we identify it for what it is, so that we are better able to resist it and respond to it.
Yeah, so I must say I was under the misapprehension that Trump just said things and got a rise out of people, and then he kept saying them. Like he said, they're not sending their best people; they're sending rapists and murderers, which he said from the very beginning. And it got a rise out of a group of people, so he never let it go. But I'm glad that you put these ideas together in this article, because it clearly is a well thought through strategy. It's hard to believe. It's hard for me to believe Trump deeply thinks about much of anything except himself. But he is surrounded by people that you quote in the article who clearly do know what they're doing, and kind of are a soulless crew that are promoting kind of almost a genocide here in our own country.
Yeah, the hope that I had, I always felt that he was dangerous from the beginning. But what I hoped is that the United States is now a majority minority country. And Blacks and Jews represent a minority still, but when you add all of the people that he discounts and that he chooses to oppress, if you add them all together, I think we represent a majority, I hope.
I think so.
But the thing that interests me, I mean, so he said his obnoxious, horrible things. The thing coming down the escalator. He said the thing about they don't send their best people, and people like the three of us and a lot of people we know just say, how obnoxious is that? And yet here, as you point out in the article, he's ahead in the polls, ahead of Biden. So he is captured by repeating those kind of lies, that kind of viciousness. Uh, uh, he has captured a huge part of our population
3 million people voted for him.
who now believe that.
Yes, he's
Truly,
the vehicle for this sort of propaganda. And two things can be true at the same time. He does get a rise out of it. It is, in a sense, kind of freewheeling and very performative for him. He loves to see that the applause and to get a rise out of his opponents. But there is a strategy behind all this. And if it isn't coming from Donald, then it's coming from people like Stephen Miller and Steve Bannon and Kash Patel and this guy Davis, who might be the new Attorney General. And it's coming from Project 2025 and the Heritage Foundation. There are smart, crafty, and very dangerous individuals who know what they're doing, but Donald is their celebrity voice.
right.
And that's why he's the tip of the spear.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, I mean, his contribution to this is, whatever you may think of him, he's a wonderful showman. I mean, all his movements and the way, he's like Jack Benny with with an evil mind.
Right. I
Really,
mean,
that's what he is. I must say, he's fun to watch. As much as I detest him, he's pretty interesting to watch.
you go back and you watch the speeches of Silvio Berlusconi. He was a performer too, a real demagogue. I wouldn't say that he was quite the fascist that Donald Trump seems that he is today. I could be wrong there. And if you look at footage of Mussolini, what a performer.
Right.
You had people laughing. And Donald does that too. So Donald is a master showman. I think he's a very fine propagandist. He's not a deep thinker, but he doesn't have to be a deep thinker because he has a bench doing the thinking for him.
Yes, yes. Well, thank you, Bill Blum, for
No, I have one more
Oh,
question.
okay, sorry.
So we know that, and it's been drilled into us that this dangerous trend is happening. And despite all the lawyers in Washington, D.C. and in Florida and New York, we don't seem to be able to stop this train. Is there any way that we can reverse what's going on?
Well, I think we can. First of all, we have to do our part to sound the alarm. We have to identify his propaganda for what it is. And I think what we have to start doing as we approach November 2024 is to tell people to vote for the things that are in their own interests.
Right.
Think of yourself first. Don't think about Joe Biden first. There's a lot to be angry about with Joe Biden or to be disappointed about with Joe Biden. But think about what your interests are, how they're going to be best served, and then act accordingly. And I think we need to explain to people, what are your best interests when it comes to things like abortion, birth control, climate change, union rights, civil rights? They don't lie with allowing Trump to be elected.
That's right. That's right. Well, thank you, Bill, for joining us again. We really appreciate the way that you make complex matters very clear and easy to understand. And we look forward to continuing to publish your work and doing more of these really informative interviews.
Always
Thank you.
be with you. Thanks a lot.
Righty. Have a good day.
You too.
Bye-bye. Thank you for sticking around. If you like the LA Progressive content and the discussions we have here, please consider clicking the subscribe button below and also give us a thumbs up. That helps to grow our audience by feeding the algorithm, which helps to get this content in front of more eyes. Thanks for stopping by. We really appreciate your support.